One of my angles in trying to with the schedule transformation, and we're looking with the Big Ten, the West was so weak, and so I looked at teams that maybe were going to escalate there, and then I looked in the East and saw some teams, the non-Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State teams, that would get a lighter schedule. And the first of those two, and I got one from each conference. And first of all, Purdue on the West side. They've got, and I put the Big Four, and I'm looking at Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, and then Oregon. I got two. We could talk about maybe USC and Iowa, but I think there's a drop after that Big Four. They play three of those Big Four in Purdue. They play Oregon, Penn State, in Ohio State. They also play Notre Dame. I know that Notre Dame lost their offensive tackle, but Notre Dame should be able to handle the Boilermakers. You also got a sneaky little. Nobody was bruised up, short term and long term, like Wazoo and Oregon State. But they got to go to Oregon State, and they held on to a few more players than maybe it's expected. Maybe Purdue's power ranking is a little bit, but that's always been a tricky trip to the state of Oregon for historical Big Ten teams. So Purdue at at under 4, plus 115 right now. So. And also, they sandwich the game at Oregon State between Notre Dame and Nebraska, which makes it a little bit more tricky. And so I think that the Purdue Boilermakers, and then at the end of the season, they end up with trips to East Lansing and Bloomington. Not exactly Murderers Row, but after they get through this entire schedule, a much tougher schedule than what they've been dealing with lately. I think their depth is going to take a role as well. Under 4 wins, total wins, Purdue at plus 115. I know it's a low number, but they've got a big step up in class as far as their schedule is concerned. Paul, I know you've looked at the schedules as well, in college football with, all this shifting in conference realignment.
Yeah, I mean, when you're looking at these regular season win totals and these conference win totals, I mean, it all comes down to scheduling, not only who you play and where you play them, but the point of occurrence, like you mentioned, in certain sandwich situations and things like that. And Purdue definitely, they lost their head coach. Braum goes to Louisville. And, I just don't think it's quite the same program. They've been losers in the transfer portal, I think, the last couple of years. Their top wide receiver goes to Oklahoma. Their top defensive player, Skyerton, returns to Bryan College Station, where he grew up, to play for Texas A&M this year, and I think he'll be a force in the SEC. So they lose their best offensive player, their best defensive player, and I just think, in this new age of college football, the rich will get richer, and the other teams will suffer. And not only talking about the other teams being group of 5 schools, but the lower division schools in the Power 4 conferences, rather, I think are also going to see some decreases in their overall roster talent. And I think Purdue's a prime example of that.